Welcome to VDG Sports. I'm your host, Vince Douglas Gregory. Special comment? Yes, special comment. I should have known. I know deep down, I knew something was going to come afoot, but I put a little hope, I put a little faith, and I put a little trust in the NFL, and they go and do a little something like this. Granted, bear with me, stay with me. I'm not going to paint a broad brush. I'm not going to use a broad brush to paint. But there are some scary things about the Brian Flores hire, no hire, blackball, maybe not. And it's not the fact that since he's filing this lawsuit or got the lawsuit going on, that he may never ever work again in the NFL. That's somewhat expected. There's enough evidence of that in the past to say that probably happened. That probably happened. But the thing that gets me, and it's not the whole skirting of the Rooney Rule, basically having to interview one minority candidate before you hire whoever you want to hire. That's something that the NFL done about 2 decades ago or so, 20 years, something like that. That isn't easy because that's expected. That it hasn't worked. They've even as recently tried to incentivize teams to do this by giving draft picks, I believe, making it worth their while, and it's still not that many. 1, 2, maybe 3 total minorities coaches. But that's expected. There's enough history, there's enough evidence for that. The thing that gets me, the thing that's troubling, not the most, but one of the things that's troubling that I didn't expect, that I didn't know could happen, that I didn't know that can take place, that took place and that happened. The weaponization of sources, the weaponization of papers, the weaponization of talking heads, the weaponization of people who get their information, or people who got their information from the club, whether it's a source, whether it's somebody directly inside the club, whoever. But the weaponization of that information is the thing that gets me a little bit scared. If this is happening then and they got their hand caught in the cookie jar, or what about the other times that it may have happened and no one have known? So the people that, fans and the people that are supposed to be trusted with the journalistic integrity are feeding false information, are feeding out a narrative that's only beneficial to who they getting the source from, that's only beneficial to one player, one person, one organization, and it's not even hand. Is journalism still alive? Who do you believe? Who can you trust if everybody is parroting and saying the same thing they got from a couple of sources, and there's nobody else to push back, and there's nothing else to say that, hey, that might not be true. There might be more to that story. Because all I kept hearing, the reason that Flores got fired, sacked, you pick, you choose, I'm just the narrator, it's your adventure. It's because he's abrasive. He doesn't get along. He rubs people the wrong way. What? So you mean not wanting to tank, not wanting to lose is rubbing someone the wrong way when the organization wants to tank allegedly and lose allegedly? Okay. But so many journalists, so many talking heads, so many people was parroting that and saying that abrasive, this, that, and it was the same words, same meaning, same adjectives to describe him, and there was nothing else about it. There's not more else to it. You can go check. The internet is in ink, and I suggest, don't take my word for it. Go look for yourself, even if you care. If you care. but to be able to use tools or use people as tools, people in positions, people with occupations that the regular everyday person is supposed to be able to have a little bit of trust in, have a little bit of faith that they're vetting their sources, that they're vetting this stuff, and that it's just not going from ear to communication, ear to some form of communication. If that's the case, anybody with a platform, any blogger, any whoever on the internet, on the social medias can do what they do, and they will have just as much credibility as the people who are getting their information from the sources who they don't really vet, because they are just being a mouthpiece of the organization and putting out the narrative that they want put out. That's troubling. Because if it can happen in this form of fashion, and if it can happen to one person that we know of because they don't want to play ball, quote unquote, and that's me, you can quote me on that, don't want to tank, don't want to do certain things that's gonna taint his record and basically make it hard for him to get a job again anyway, if he was gonna able to get a job again anyway, because as I say, there's enough evidence out there to point to the fact that this isn't going to end well, and this isn't going to happen again, period. If it can happen to him, and if it was successful to a certain extent with him, who's next? Who can this misinformation be used on to weaponize? That is the scary thing. That is the thing. If you're on the fence, and if you're saying, why should I care? Why should I care? Why does this matter to me? The NFL, they're doing everything they can to make it fair. You can't force an organization to hire somebody they don't want to hire. It is a privately owned business. I get all that. I'm not even arguing those points, because I already know the pushback. I already know some of the answers and some of the arguments that's going to come back from that. I'm saying, look deeper. Understand a little bit deeper. That's surface. That's what you can see. That's what you know that's already there. And hopefully one day get to the point where that's not the case. Hopefully 1 century we'll get to the point where that's not the case. However, as of now, that isn't, it just hasn't worked out that way. As of now, it just haven't worked out that way. And with that being said, look a little bit deeper. Look a little bit deeper. And what I mean by that, because I've painted the picture. What I mean by that is, if this can be, this type of weaponization of misinformation can be used against somebody who didn't do something that they were told to do that was against competition, against the spirit of the game, against so many things. So standing up on their principles, standing up for what was right, and they had this smear campaign, this attack of misinformation by credible people, by people with platforms that are huge and humongous, saying and parroting the same thing, so public opinion and so people can think that he is the problem. He is the one that's the bad guy. He is the one that's evil. And if that can happen, it can almost get away with it, except for the internet's and ink, and then there are receipts. How many times that people did get away with it? How many times have this been used on other people? In the future, who can this possibly be used on? This isn't the end. This is probably not the beginning. It's somewhere in between. This is somewhere in between. Now, if this isn't addressed by the NFL or by the powers that be or by somebody with this misinformation attack, tearing down someone because of not refusing to do the wrong thing, what's next? Who's next? Can anybody just, with the means, use journalists, use talking heads, use people of influence to get out information that they know is untrue or a little bit true, or just cloaked enough in the truth that it can become a negotiable fact and change opinion or sway opinion or influence opinion? Who's next? What's next? That's the scary thing. That's the thing that should have you concerned if you aren't concerned about everything else. That's very, very concerning. If you aren't concerned about any and everything else, you might want to be concerned about that. Who can you trust? Who can you believe? Who do you think and know that's not pushing some kind of agenda? Who was willingly being led astray? Who was unwillingly led astray? There's so many questions, not enough answers, and we need to get behind this. We need to get the facts. We need to get the information so at least the rest of us have a fighting chance when it comes to misinformation and it being out there and weaponized as such. What do you think? You got any answers? Do you even care? Let me know. You know what to do.